don't mind, get back a little bit further. Then you can see the whole building.
Okay, I'm not even doing that yet. So,
Tell me when you're ready.
hello, folks. Welcome back for part 2 of the 2021 solar tour. I'm in downtown Fairbanks. Actually, you can't see where I'm at here because of this virtual background setting. So let me take this off here. So this is sunny downtown Fairbanks. As you can see, we're in the middle of a snowstorm. So I'm going to switch my camera here and introduce Kerry Gronewold with Alascorp. So, okay, Kerry, you want to say hello to everybody?
Hello, I'm Kerry Gronewold, coming to you from Fairbanks, Alaska, where we're getting our first heavy snowfall, October 2nd, 2021. We're here looking at a solar system on a rental unit right downtown in Fairbanks, Alaska. This happens to be a triplex, and this was one of the first systems that I worked on that was installed in Fairbanks in the city proper. So this install had to go through the normal channels where we got a building permit, and it was approved and inspected for install in the city of Fairbanks. Some areas don't require that, especially if you're outside of a municipality. But in this case, everything meets the code requirements. It consists of 2 thermal panels up on the roof. This is different than electric. This is used to heat hot water. Solar thermal has a fluid going through it, and if you look closely, can you zoom in on the panels?
Yes, I can.
You can see there's a little kind of a ball between the 2, and then up at the top, there's a connector as well. That is a fluid line that goes down to the inside of the building. This install was done in 2009, and it actually was done as part of a class where we had an installers class. My business is Alascorp, and I install and sell solar thermal. Can you get a picture?
I got
of
it. You're good right where you're at.
Okay, this is the view of the class. We actually had, at least I'm sure there were 25 participants that came in to learn how to be installers and install solar thermal. Part of the class was out here up on the roof with the sky crane. You can see all the safety gear, and one person is assigned to just stand aside and make sure nobody falls off. But it was kind of an exciting summer day. It wouldn't work so good right now on a day like today.
Yeah. Now, out of those 20 people who came to that class, how many are still working in the industry? You don't know?
They're all still contractors. Most of these were contractors. They're still
Good.
contractors. They don't specialize in solar thermal, but some of them have gone on to do solar thermal installations, like in boilers and hydronic systems. And the 2 guys right in front, I just recognized them. They're both contractors. One of those is already retired because that was 2009. This is 2021.
Okay. So since I can't avoid the for sale sign in the background, this is your building you're looking to sell. How much do you want for it?
Oh, this is for sale for $299,000. It's a triplex, so it has 3 different sources of income. One person, literally, and I'm not exaggerating, one person is in the front, and the other 2 places you pay for the mortgage.
Sounds like a winner. And then how much of the solar hot water that just covers just hot water? There's no space heating being used for it.
That's correct. I'll be glad to expand on the differences between space heating and solar hot water.
Okay, so let's go on inside and take a look at the system inside there.
See the system.
Great. So we're gonna head on inside here and take a look at the system here. Solar is low-hanging fruit. It's not a silver bullet. You know, you use it when you have it. So anyway.
This is the solar system for solar thermal.
Let's talk about energy. Leave the door open.
It's okay. It's warm in here. One of the advantages when the tank gets warm, it gives off heat. This particular unit is complete. when I looked for systems to install, and some of this might be relevant to you, you want a system that is approved, that's mature technology, that isn't experimental. That was key. And it's also important for passing code that you get something that's well listed components, and you have a proper background engineering. That's what I'm looking for. This is actually the unit which exchanges heat and creates the heat for a tank. This is a real simple system, and this is a diagram on how it works. It's not a standalone system. It works in conjunction with your existing hot water system. In this picture, you see this is a normal hot water tank. The solar tank, which gets its heat from the roof, that actually works in line from your source. The source isn't drawn here, but the source provides water to this tank. In this case, it's water coming in right here. That's actually coming in from the city. Water comes in here. If this gets any solar gain at all, it's warmer ready. So that water, when a tap is turned on, goes into your normal hot water tank. Your savings comes from having preheated water.
Mm-hmm.
I love it because I was offline for approximately 2 months when we did some plumbing work in the basement. And I got a real actual anecdotal cost of how much money that tank is saving me in those 2 solar panels. It cost me $140 more each of those months that this system was offline for heating domestic hot water. Now I want to make sure that you're real clear. This is different than space heating and hot water heating. We've installed a lot of those systems too, and I'll share more about that. But this unit, which is mounted to the tank, this is a normal residential hot water tank. This unit has everything in it that a normal boiler has. It has pop-off valves, pressure tank, heat exchanger, control systems, wiring, a small computer. It's basically a mini boiler, and it's used to take hot water. It's not simple to look at. If you're really interested, here's a great book. It's called The Renewable Energy Handbook by William H. Kemp. I don't remember what year this was written, but there's a complete, this is copyright 2009. It happens to be the same year that I installed this system. So we've been online for.
Now, so you installed this in 2009. It's 2021. Now, how long do you think the system's going to last without any major upgrades?
I have, from my perspective, I think it'll last indefinitely.
Longer than the house?
Probably, and copper doesn't degrade unless you let the solar fluid get out of control, and we monitor and service that every couple of years. There's actually a symbol that comes up and says how to check. There's only about 1.5 gallons of fluid. But anybody that's familiar with high temperature fluid, if it becomes too hot, it will acidify.
Yeah. So on the preheating, basically you've got city water coming in at say what, 50 degrees or so? Okay.
We're going to ground.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Ground temperatures. As we approach colder part of winter, it'll come in at 34, 35 degrees.
Okay.
So we're taking 34-degree water, putting it in here during most of the fall. We do get some solar gain in the winter. I try to tell people, ask me, what do you do during it's dark? I said, we don't get solar gain. I mean, that's logic, but the other 9 months of the year make up for it.
Yeah. So you've got solar coming in that are just 30 degrees, and a hot water heater is the energy that you're expending to raise that from 34 degrees to, let's say, 120 degrees. But
in most people's homes, that's either here in Fairbanks, it's either a sidearm off of the boiler or a water maker off of a boiler, or in the newer installs now, they're using natural gas. But that's usually coming from a petrol source. What we're doing is preheating with solar,
and thereby not having to use as much of the petrodollars.
So basically in the marginal seasons, you're basically getting, you're not heating 32-degree water, you're heating maybe 60-degree water to 120. And then in the summertime, you're naturally hitting 120 and you don't have to.
This is a cool day and we haven't had any sun, and I'm looking at the temperature at 60 degrees here. So it probably came in about that temperature today. Let me share this with you on the subject of temperature. This was taken in March. At 8 a.m., my water tank pressure or temperature was 100 degrees. We get sunshine in March. March is one of the strongest solar seasons in Alaska. We actually have more solar per square meter than Germany, which is the #2 solarized country in the world. At 5 p.m., so this is all day, it had raised the temperature of this tank from 100 degrees to 130 degrees. And the temperature outside was 14 degrees in the afternoon, and it started out at 12 below zero. So we're producing solar gain in sub-zero temperatures.
Mhm.
That's the takeaway from this.
So how do you keep
There's
from,
sunshine, radiant heat is different than conductive heat.
so now how do you keep yourself from boiling, or, you know, when you got 130-degree water coming in, you don't want that. How do you?
That's easy. The panels themselves have a flap at the top, and it has a non-electronic, non-electrified, it doesn't require any control. It has a flapper which opens when it gets too hot in the panel. The bottom is perforated in the back of the panel, and it will naturally thermosiphon air across the coils that are inside the panels. So it naturally gets rid of the excess heat. So
Cool.
that's our fallback, our safety, anti-stagnation. That's just what you're asking about. Stagnation occurs when there's no way to get rid of the excess heat. Early systems use some kind of a heat dump. We don't need to. It's built into the panels themselves. Different types of systems have different ways of dealing with it. There's a European form where they actually create a little bit of excess heat, which bursts some of the fluid into steam, pressurizes the rest. The rest does not turn into steam. The higher the pressure, the more it takes to get it to turn into steam. You try to avoid excessive heat, and you do that with the right fluid. We use a polypropylene that's got some additives to it, and we don't use very much. It's expensive, but there's only about 1.5 gallons fluid in this system, and it can be changed out cheaply every 3 years. That's what's recommended. This system is actually run longer than that. I simply do a pH test with a little dipstick or a little stick that will put a little bit of fluid on it and tell you the condition of the fluid. Very easy to check.
Now you can use the same kind of technology for preheating spas and or hot tubs and pools, right?
Well, yes. Now we're talking about combi systems. That's another area we can get into real quickly. Here's a 2-panel system. You may have heard of the name Rich Cypher. He wrote the book on solar energy. It's had 5 revisions. He's a retired professor. But he's one of the first solar thermal installers, or the places that got installed in Fairbanks, and we did his. This was in 2006. And you can see we put it on top of his greenhouse. Well, 5 years later, we actually went ahead and changed to a larger heating system, enclosed his greenhouse, and now 6 panels heats his whole house. What I would recommend to anybody considering any renewable, the first thing you should do is take care of the building envelope and all the other energy related things, electrical, try to get your loads down. This house, it was built in 1920, had wood sawdust in the walls. So the first thing we had to do was put new insulation in, and we put a basement with an insulated crawl space, our insulated basement underneath it. The very first year we had it, we cut our heating loss in half the very first year. Once we've upgraded the building, then we went to the solar. Then we went to the renewable energy system. We put in quite a few different combi systems. It all comes back to, and this is where our focus and premise is. This is a typical diagram of the energy for a normal house for a year. Up here in Alaska, you can see the big purple. Guess what it's for? Space heating, of course. Another quarter of it is used for hot water heating. Everybody, we have 2 dryers, we have a washing machine, we have 3 tenants. Domestic hot water is on 24/7. So that's why it's such a large portion of the energy. If you look at this, electrical, and I'm not dissing electrical, is actually a small portion of the total energy cost. Our meat and potatoes are taking care of this big chunk of the energy.
Now, if we were living down the equator, that big blue section would likely be space cooling. Yeah.
Air conditioning doesn't even show up in Alaska here. But what we're focusing on is the elephant in the room, the most expensive cost of energy. So that's where we get our business addressing that.
And if when people are serious and ready to do this in their own home, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, I'm on the web at solarheatalaska.com. It's an ancient website, but the contact is still there and the information is still good, although it hasn't been updated in a long time. There's another source that we've been using for many years. I suggest anybody look in their own area for installers, because you want to get somebody who's experienced and knows what they're doing. That's really key. We've had many classes of stuff.
So if you're watching this from Georgia, don't call Kerry.
No, I got to call. We have this house. No, I don't have a picture. We actually did a house in Sutton, Alaska, which is 104 miles out on the highway. It's a 10-hour drive for me. And we were on Build Alaska TV series. The Home and Garden Channel has it, and do DIY cable TV news network. It was filmed by the largest producer of reality TV shows in the United States. And they filmed us putting together this house, which is heated by geothermal and a big solar system. It's a really neat system. And I got a call. I didn't know when it would be aired, but I was sitting in front of the TV in April. So it was midwinter here. And I got a call one March, and he says, "Hey, I like the way you did the system up there, because we use a customized rack system to hold them up higher off the ground so the snow will shed."
Mm-hmm.
We get deep snow, so you don't want that snow avalanching and blocking the panels. You want to use them. If there's 20 below here, we get a little sunshine. There's a microclimate. The snow all slides off the panels. So we've raised our racks and have a custom system. I'm glad to share that with anybody that might be interested.
Okay.
High schooler did the CAD CAM for me, so
yeah,
it's available. But I got a call in April saying, "Can you come and help me put mine together?" I said, "Sure, be glad to. Where are you?" He said, "I'm in Maryland." So I tried to hook him up with someone local. I do recommend trying to find a local installer.
well,
there is a company called Solar Logic. It's AM division of AM Energy, and we use in our combi systems. This is a combi system. It actually uses wood heat with a coil in the firebox and solar panels on the roof and an oil fired boiler. And we've done several different homes with combi systems. And you can take heat from any source and put it to any load. Meaning that if you've got a pool, we've done it for pool, their electric bill went from $600 a month down to $100 a month, just from the addition of 5 solar panels on the roof. We're using solar thermal to heat their swimming pool. But on all of these systems that we install, they all use the same component. It's a computer that actually controls, and it does it in a very efficient way. So the company is Solar Logic. This is called the Solar Logic Generation 2 SLIC. It's Solar Logic Controller, integrated controller. Without getting into the details, it controls the heat from any source and redistributes it anywhere else. We use sensors. There's some wonderful examples out there on the internet. Combi systems, and they work very effectively. The number one thing I found with solar thermal is you need to control it. it isn't necessarily how much heat you're producing, it's how you effectively control that heat. We've even put solar thermal in Washateria in one of the villages that doesn't even have solar panels. Instead, the electrical gen sets were routed with their hot water coming out of them that goes normally to the radiator and it's lost heat.
Mhm.
We routed them into heat exchangers and then took that heat and put it into their the hydronic heating system. And their cost of fuel went from this down to this.
Yeah.
Only the coldest part of the winter did the actual boilers come back on. There was so much heat generated and reused. But we're using the same system. We're using a controller that's smart enough to redistribute it.
Okay. So I know that there's tax incentives and other things for electric. Are there solar incentives for hot water as well?
I understand they've extended before it was supposed to go down 2% a year or a significant amount each year, but they've extended that now. So I believe you're still eligible for the federal tax incentive. We don't have a statewide incentive, but the federal tax incentive is still there.
So is there anything else you'd like to let folks know as we wrap up here?
Solar works. That's the most important thing that I wanted to tell people. What drives most of the people that put solar in is the cost of energy. If they can substantially reduce their ongoing and future energy costs, they get interested in it. It's not really a flash in the pan. Most of the systems that I've installed, they actually intend to stay in a house to take advantage of those long-term gains. I'll share with you something. Most competent installers have some form of economic analysis. This happens to be one which would be comparable to what I have here. And we're in year 2009, 1910, we're in 11 years. So we're up in the return on investment. We're approaching 10%, and that's only going to continue up, the return on investment over time.
So you've already passed your break-even point.
I was actually past the break-even point when I started because people paid me to come to the class. So I'm sorry, but that's an unusual way to get started in solar, but it worked for me. But if you take the cost of someone else installing it and plot it out, the return on investment is better than you can get in markets.
Yeah, no, I think it's an excellent idea. I would encourage, especially with solar PV, students can literally be involved in the design of the systems that go on their schools and get the education and save some money. And then, like you were talking before, just have electrical engineers check the math, have electrical contractors check the connections. So, all right, well, thank you very much, Kerry, for showing us the system. And you have a presentation that we'll be putting together a little bit later on that goes into a little more detail about this. But for now, I think this is a good introduction to solar hot water, and I thank you for being part of the 2021 solar tour.
And good luck with all you folks out there looking to put your own systems in. It's doable. Overcome the challenges and find somebody to help you.
Okay, thank you.